What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you in part by the Blackview DR900X Plus Series dash cam with 4K ultra-high resolution front camera. It captures every detail around you because a 4K dash cam is not a gimmick, it's a game changer. With the Blackview DR900X Plus model's 4K ultra-high res front camera and Sony Starvis sensor in the rear camera, you can be sure that you'll capture all the important details during the day and at night. And nothing is more important than having video proof in case of an accident. A screenless, compact camera that hides behind your rear view mirror, the Blackview is managed from the Blackview mobile app. With Blackview's seamless pairing, connecting to the Blackview app is a breeze. No need to enter pesky passwords anymore. Just wave your hand near the camera to confirm it's you, and then the app will let you browse recorded videos, change settings, or connect your dash cam to the cloud effortlessly. When you're away from your car, it's got built-in voltage monitoring, so you can leave your car protected by Blackview's parking mode without fear of draining your car's battery, or pair the Blackview to an optional aftermarket battery to extend the length of time that it can run when the car is off. Thanks to the optional LTE connectivity module, the Blackview DR900X Plus Series dash cam keeps you connected to your car from anywhere. This means you can receive impact notifications on your mobile, check on your car with remote live view, and rest easy knowing that live event upload saves impact footage in real time to the cloud, including the important 5-second pre-impact buffer. The mobile hotspot function allows you to turn your LTE connected dash cam into a Wi-Fi hotspot for up to 5 devices. The DR900X Plus series is available now in 4 versions, with the front camera only, paired with a rear camera, an infrared interior camera, or an AI-powered driver monitoring camera. Have it your way, folks. Go to Blackview, that's BLACKVUE.com/TST, and use promo code TIRE to get 10% off any Blackview dash cam. Free shipping for orders over $200. That's BLACKVUE.com/TST. and use code TIRE to get 10% off. Also brought to you by Evercoat Body Shop. You ever try to do body work at home? I'm guessing most of you haven't if you're not a professional, but it might be worth trying. It might be worth learning because Evercoat makes it super easy. Maybe you've just got a dent in your car that needs fixing. Maybe you're restoring an old classic. Evercoat Body Shop has the right product for your project. Evercoat takes the guesswork out of body work. It's a simple 3-step process. Just prep, fill, and sand. Their perfect mix guide makes it easy to get the right ratio of filler and cream hardener. It dries in about 15 minutes, sands up to 50% faster than the competition, so there's less waiting around. Evercoat is the #1 brand used by professionals, and they can help you get professional results too. Head on down to Advance Auto Parts and ask for Evercoat Body Shop products by name. Advance Auto Parts at Evercoat Body Shop. That's what's up, folks. Brought to you today by Policy Genius, right? Insurance is not something most of us really want to think about until it's too late. Rising inflation and insurance rates are concerning, but you can't skip out on it. You got to have it because, trust me, I have been there. If you need insurance and you don't have it, you are in a world of hurt, my friend. But Policy Genius is here. Policy Genius can help. One of the easiest ways to save money is by reshopping your home and auto insurance policies. Policy Genius customers saved an average of $1,250 per year over what they were paying before for home and auto insurance. And if you're buying a home, so much going on, so much paperwork, so many inspectors and mortgage brokers and all these people, and odds are this stuff is confusing, but Policy Genius makes it easy to compare insurance quotes from the top companies so you can find your lowest price fast. Customers have saved an average of $350 a year on home insurance. And if you're not sure what coverage you need or how to find the low price, you need Policy Genius. If your policies, your home and auto policies are up for renewal, and your costs have increased. Policy Genius can help you look for lower rates by shopping your home and auto insurance with Policy Genius, leading to savings that you can put towards your next home renovation or DIY project. All you need to do is go to policygenius.com to get started. Policy Genius will show you price estimates for policies that fit your search criteria. If you like what they find, they'll get you switched over for free. And customers who bundled their home and auto policies with Policy Genius saved an average of $1,250 per year over what they were paying before. The team at Policy Genius are on hand every step to help you make decisions with confidence. The Policy Genius team works for you, not the insurance companies. They don't add on extra fees. They don't sell your info to third parties. And Policy Genius has earned thousands of 5-star reviews across Google and Trustpilot. So head over to policygenius.com to get your free home and auto insurance quotes and see how much you can save. Also, last but certainly not least, brought to you in part today by HelloFresh. I love HelloFresh. You know why? Because it's not meal planning. It's not like meal delivery service. You're not eating leftovers. You're eating fresh food. HelloFresh delivers fresh, quality produce from the farm to your door in less than a week, so you can have summer flavors right from home. You cook. They don't cook it for you. You cook, right? And I love cooking just like I love driving sports cars. That's the fun part to me. The cooking is delightful. What's not fun, just like driving sports cars, is the maintenance, the storage, the insurance, all this other stuff dealing with cars. It's so annoying. I started a business to deal with it for other people because I understand how it works, right? And so the analogy here with food is the grocery store, figuring out what you're going to make, portioning everything appropriately, having to buy unique spices to make the best recipes that you then sit in your cupboard for 2 months, and you've now spent $12 on a spice for one recipe that you can never use again. HelloFresh has a list of up to 30 dinner recipes to choose from each week, the most choices of any of these people. And they've got foolproof step-by-step recipes. That means a joyful cooking experience and a stress-free summer. HelloFresh cuts back on time spent in the kitchen with most meals ready in around 30 minutes or less. You can discover seasonal summer recipes like cucumber salad, stuffed pita pockets, chicken sausage, stuffed peppers, Tuscan spice shrimp, and so much more. You can get the vegetarian options. You can get the like super premium options. You can get the low-calorie options. And HelloFresh is 72% cheaper than dining at a restaurant and even cheaper than grocery shopping. That's money back in your pocket. You can customize your favorite dishes with the new Hello Custom options by swapping out one protein or side dish for another, upgrading for a more luxe experience, or even adding protein to a veggie meal. That means more choices, more variety, and more meals tailored to you. Every HelloFresh meal that I've made at home and eaten, it's been very delicious. I've even kept those easy-to-read recipe cards on my cookbook shelf so that if I wanted to make them like at a party later for more people, you know, because I just got HelloFresh for myself and my wife for those like weekday dinner at home kind of deals. But some of the recipes, I was like, man, I could like quadruple the ingredients in this recipe and make it for a party. And so I kept those recipes and I've gone back and made them later. So I love that. So go to HelloFresh.com/SmokingTire16 and use code SmokingTire16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. You need to use that Smoking Tire 16 twice. Okay, so don't forget that. HelloFresh.com/SmokingTire16 and then code SmokingTire16. All right, and that gets you 16 meals and 3 free gifts. And HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. All right, folks, on today's episode of the podcast, Zach and I are in studio. I was in Uruguay on a little bird hunting trip with my dad, talk about what it was like down there. Zach went to Germany, to Deutschland, to drive a series of Porsches, both old and new, the evolution of some RS cars. We have a lot of questions from you guys. I go over my vacation reading list. And that's there's a whole lot of little tidbits that are good for you in this cruise show. Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you guys had a good Memorial Day week. I did. I was in Uruguay. Okay, you can't. If I pronounce it the Americanized way, the 3 Uruguayans get fucking pissed.
If you say Uruguay,
yeah, they get mad.
they're like, I'm not a guay.
They go, we don't pronounce it with like a Y. We pronounce it like a ooh. And
That's fair.
didn't look like I thought it was going to look. Tell me how Uruguay looks. It is between
Green.
It is between Brazil and Argentina. How do you think it would look?
Between Brazil and Argentina.
Yeah. South of Brazil, north of Argentina, on the east coast of South America.
Green with mountains?
Right. That's kind of what I thought.
Okay.
Green with mountains. No.
What does it look like? Tokyo?
Kansas.
Really?
It looks like Kansas. It's flat as fuck.
Wow.
Flat as fuck. The roads have very few turns in them. And it alternates between impeccable A-road tarmac, impeccable, like beautifully paved, really well kept, and then the shittiest dirt roads you've ever driven on that are not maintained at all. Very well. That's Montevideo.
Yeah.
There's Montevideo, and then there's Punta del Este, which is sort of their like beach town. And the cities seem nice. I spent 0 time in the cities, and a few Uruguayan fans that we have, all 4 of them, very kind. Do I want restaurant recommendations? That's what it looks like. Yeah, that's exactly what I saw for 7 days right there. Just that. Just fields.
Kansas, Texas,
Yeah, somewhere between Kansas and England, but a little more towards Kansas. It's about the same latitude the other way as like North Carolina.
Okay.
So it's kind of that type of temperature. And it's farmy. It's real fucking farmy. Cows, sheep, grains. Very nice people. Everyone I met was extremely kind. Put up with my awful broken Spanish where they could. We did some bird hunting. It's not cool based on what's going on in America right now to talk too much about doing anything with a gun, and I'm not trying to, I'm not like yay hunting, yay death. It's just like a thing that me and my dad have kind of done for a while, with sporting clays, shooting clay pigeons, and then shooting quail up here, which are like chicken-like little birds that fly. And then we went. Everyone goes to South America to shoot doves. That's why people go down there. And it's because doves are
where
like,
they get divorced, like, fuck these wedding doves.
No, they're different doves. They're not white. They're gray. They're more like little pigeons. And they're like super invasive. They eat all the fucking seeds. They eat all the crops. And so the people down there have figured out, like, hey, we could charge these fucking Americanos like all this money,
right,
to do our pest control.
It's like the wild boar thing in Texas.
And there's so many of them. Like, so there's 3 things we did. We went hunting for perdiz. A perdiz is like a quail. It's basically acts just like a quail. It's Perdiz. And it's like just a little round, chubby bird that hangs out in those types of fields right there in the tall grass. Perdiz. You have an extra E there. Yeah. It's just it's a very quail-like bird. They don't covey up. So a covey is when a bunch of birds get into like a bush together, and you scare them up with the dog, and they go, whoa, like 20 of them in the air, and then you shoot them, right? These are like individual birds.
Right, loners.
And they're wild.
So those are the ones you got to worry about.
They are. They're the lone wolf birds. But they basically act like a quail, and you go out in the fields with the dogs, and you're walking, and you kill them, and they are motherfucking-licious.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Can you taste the difference between all the different birds?
Yeah, if you eat them all on the same day, which we did.
Line them up, yeah.
I mean, we did. These are like the veal of chicken. Super tender. Like, I know it's not cool to eat veal, but it does taste good. And these are like that. It's very tender. It's all white meat, but it's soft. Fucking so dank. The chef down there was chefing the fuck out of these perdiz. We ate them like every single meal. And then we shot ducks, which I didn't love. I'm not that into shooting ducks. You hide you're not walking like you are this.
Right.
You're hiding in one place behind a blind, a thing of fake plants, and you put the decoys out at sunrise.
You gotta
It's
hang out with the
freezing.
Dynasty dudes.
It's fucking cold. Yeah. And they're doing the calls, and you're sitting there, and when they fly in, you shoot them. I don't like sitting in one place waiting for something to come to you and then killing it. You already have such an advantage with this gun. Like
so true.
A human versus a little bird, like you have a gun, like you have so much advantage.
Yeah, at least put some exercise in.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's why I like the quail and the perdies, because like you've got the dogs, and the dogs are awesome to watch. They're sniffing out these birds. You're doing like 5-10 miles of walking through the fields. You know, they're wild. They're not like stocked or anything down there. So you're getting, and there's a limit, right? So 10 birds per hunter per day with the perdies. So you're out there for 5 hours, and if you get 10 birds, like you're done. And I didn't even get that. I got like my most day I got 8. And so the ducks, I was like, not. Now they were delicious. We ate a duck. It was very nice.
Same thing with like the deer blinds when people like they'll sit in a tree
for 6 hours.
6 hours, and then maybe shoot one if it walks by. Just like,
Yeah.
I just go to the store.
Yeah.
At that point. I don't know.
You're freezing and you're wet, and it also seems like cheating. And then the dove thing is like the Civil War. Like you line up like 6 hunters along this fence line, and the fence line is like 100 yards in front of a row of trees where the doves roost for the night. They're out feeding in the fields, and they come in at sunset. So you get there like half an hour before sunset, and then they just start flying over. And I'm talking in an hour and 20 minutes, you probably see 30,000 birds. I mean,
what?
30,000 birds.
And they're commuting back to the tree.
Commuting. They are.
Wow.
It's a 405 freeway of doves,
And
and you're shooting them. And like, there's no limit. They're invasive. They're like kill the Uruguayans are like, kill these fucking things. Yeehaw, motherfucker! Like, have at it. They're eating our food, straight up. They don't. There's no. Oh, we shouldn't be doing this. It's like, no, do
invasive
this.
species is real. Like the Asian carp thing in the South. Like there are lakes that have been taken over by carp.
Yeah.
The carp eat everything, and they pay you to fish for these carp. And They literally jump in the boat. There's so many.
It's that. It's basically that. They and the good shoot in an hour. A good shot will do 200 of these fucking things. Yeah.
What do they do with them? The meat and things.
So you can eat them, and we did eat them. We had kebabs with dove. The dove breasts are like real small. They're like silver dollar size. So they put like 4 or 5 dove breasts on a kebab. Pretty good, not bad. Perdiz was better, but it was pretty solid. And then, I mean, there's obviously like too many to eat. I mean, there's so many. They give a bunch of them to like a local school that uses them for their school lunches, and then they also leave a bunch of them in parts of the field away from their crops, so the foxes go eat these doves. They feed their predators with them in a place where they want their predators to be, like far away from their chickens. And shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's an interesting ecosystem. The killing part of it was by far my least favorite part. I felt a little better by eating at least something that we killed.
I was about to say, like, you know what the trip is? You went down there to shoot.
I understand. I understand. I'm like a little bit of a hypocrite in this regard. Like, I could have been like, no, I'm not going to do it if I really felt
I know what you're
that
saying, because
strong
you're not a
about it.
cold-blooded person where you're just like, just shoot them, I don't care.
No, because there were dudes down there that are like, I'm here to kill stuff. Like, it's not like I enjoy walking through the fields and watching the dogs work like me. It was like, let's fucking kill things. Like, there were guys down there that were like that.
Yikes.
Yeah. One dude, we went down there after the day of is it pronounced Uvalde? Uvalde? I don't know. I've never said that word out loud. The town in Texas
I've heard people say Uvalde.
where the horrible shooting was. I'm sorry I can't pronounce it right, but whatever it was. We flew down there the day after that. One dude showed up because we didn't have the whole lodge to ourselves. There was 3 of us and then 3 other guys. One dude showed up in an NRA shirt and an NRA hat. And that was what he flew down there wearing.
Jeez.
That wasn't like his hunting gear said that on it.
Right.
Like, that was his airplane gear. from America.
Those were his Yeezy sweatpants.
Yeah, wow. And I was like, oh my God, this guy. Turned out he was. If you're the right kind of person for him to converse with, he was pleasant. You know what I mean? Until like the fourth day when he got real comfortable, and then his, let's just say he kept it under his NRA hat for like 3 days, and by day 4, after some wine, the hat came off, and then we saw the real dude. But,
oh boy! And
that guy wanted to kill stuff. Just was like, I'm gonna fucking kill him. Like he, yeah. So I mean, but you're doing pest control. They figured out how to charge people an awful lot of money to do pest control. This guy was loaded up. He had the dual pouches for the ammo.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like, if you're going to double of those, like, you're ready to unleash fury.
Well, I mean, how many shells did you go through in a day, like with Dove Day? That's got to be
the Doves
boxes.
Is where you go through a lot. But my gun is an over-under shotgun.
Right.
So it's pull, crack the barrel, the shells fly out, and then you load 2 more.
Right.
These guys brought semi-autos.
Oh, they did like Saigas
that held 5. So these guys were dumping lead into the sky, and like the NRA hat guy, his son was pretty mellow and was like a competition level shooter and was just fucking dropping doves. But he was on. But like, I went through like 7. Like a box of shells is 25, and on like. By the way, Dove Day was every day. You do something. You do alternating morning duck or perdiz in the morning, and then every afternoon was dove. So I shot
siesta.
I shot like 10 with a siesta.
I think it's like if you didn't get a win this morning, you're definitely getting one in the afternoon.
It's harder than you think. You cannot just shoot into a flock and hit something. You can't. I mean, I tried it like a bunch of times. Like, you can't pick a crowd. Sounds very tasteless, but like, you cannot just fire into a crowd of doves and hit something. You like, how did that not hit anything? But like, it won't. You have to pick one out of the crowd. It's harder than it looks. You do have to be pretty good to hit stuff. But like, I shot like 7 or 8 boxes in an afternoon, in like an hour and a half, right? This dude was dumping like 15 to 20 boxes. Yeah. And they're $20 a box.
Jeez.
It's not like the shells are free either.
Do you change around yourself and pull them out, or
yes.
Okay.
But like, yes, asterisk, but I didn't have to if I didn't want to.
Right. I'd never seen that, and I was watching Drive to Survive, and Christian Horner went clay shooting, and he'd like fire, and then he would just crack it, and he'd stand there and keep talking, and someone would like take the shells out and put the new ones in.
That's Scotland. In Scotland, they do this kind of stuff also, but it's much more luxurious. The reason that shotguns are sold as pairs is for that reason. Like, if you buy really nice shotguns, you buy a pair of them. Okay. They're sequentially numbered, and they're supposed to be identical. Identical weight, they shoot identical. And that's so you alternate the gun with your loader.
Oh, you just hand off the gun.
You hand off the empty gun, and he gives you the full one, and you swap swap them out. That's where the pairs comes from. And the term shooting brake, like a car, a wagon version of a sports car, that's BREAK. And that is like that because you take a break from shooting. So those cars will hold your guns and your shells and the dogs and your fucking booze, because everyone's drinking when they do this stuff.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's so funny. And then eventually someone was like, what if you just put more rounds in one shotgun?
Yeah. I don't like the semi-autos. I think it's another advantage we don't need. And they get jammed a lot. This dude was getting when they get hot, because one barrel, at least with the 2 barrels, you're shooting half as many shells through each barrel, plus there's more metal to cool. And when you break the gun to reload it, air goes down into it, which helps cool it. It still gets hot as fuck.
Yeah.
But the semi-autos, if you're really pumping, they fuck, and that's a metaphor. You're not actually pumping like a Mossberg, but they get really, really hot, and they start jamming, and they're a fucking disaster. Yeah. So that's what I was doing for a week. I don't think I ever got more than like 50 doves in a day, which is still a ton. I mean, it's so many things to kill.
A lot of things.
It's so many things to kill.
50 ants is like
50 anything.
A lot of ants.
But you're straight, dude. I mean, I also went fishing with Monty before I went down there, so I got my head in this sort of this doesn't matter game. We ate the fish too. We caught yellowtail and ate it and had the restaurant cook it up for us. It was dank as fuck.
That's rad.
So I was really in the mood of like going out and getting my own food for this week.
That's cool. I'm into it.
And the lodge was beautiful, but like, and the people were nice, and the chef was fucking bomb. I mean, really bomb. But it was interesting. But like, the killing part was the least interesting part for me. As usual, the best part is walking through the fields with the dogs, and watching the dogs do their thing because they rule. So anyway, I also we had these like Mitsubishi trucks, quad cab, like whatever trucks that we were driving to and from the fields. And one guy like kind of figured out who I was a little bit. Not that I'm anybody, but like that I drove sports cars and whatever, and wanted me to like whip the fucking truck in the fields because it's like dirt roads. So they were like, you drive. He was like, you drive home. And he was, that scene in the movie Rush where the guy's like has Niki Lauda drive his like Fiat and is freaking out. It's in the very beginning of the movie.
I don't remember it, but I can
whatever. The guy
guess how
was,
it goes.
I drove this dumb little Mitsubishi truck like I was in a WRC stage.
Of course.
And the guy was having a really good time.
That's awesome.
I'm sliding in and fucking jumping in. I was like, I'm going to break this truck. He's like, I don't care. It's awesome.
That's very fun.
So yeah, that's what I did on my vacation. And Zach went to Germany.
I went to Germany.
It was not really a vacation.
No, speaking of veal, schnitzel, I didn't really realize it was veal until I went there. And there was like, we went to a restaurant one night.
They can make it with other things, but normally it's veal.
It was just, they had three things like hamburger, schnitzel, and something else.
Yeah.
And, 14 people were eating that. Yeah, man, it was cool. It was kind of like
Porsches.
a SAT prep course in Porsche 911s because I hadn't, like, I've driven a lot of the newer stuff, of course, but and then I've driven like one 930 and an old 72 Targa, but like we got to drive a 72 2.7 RS lightweight and touring.
Could you actually tell the difference?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, the weight difference is like 200 pounds, and you could really feel it.
Really?
Because the lightweight one's like 2,200.
After 50 years, like, what's the difference?
No, because it's 210 horsepower, and the cars are so light. I mean, you're basically increasing the weight by 10%.
Yeah.
And you really did feel it in the steering and everything else. The lightweight one feels better, more fun. But, I mean, the touring one is still a blast. And the engine's amazing. Like, everything about those cars is so impressive.
They're $600,000.
Yeah. and if you're shopping between the lightweight and the touring, you could get the touring and save yourself like $1 million. So I recommend that, and then just get lighter seats you could put in.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the weight is the seats, but they also took out carpet and thinner glass and a bunch of other stuff. So we drove those. Then we had a 964 RS, which felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds more. I mean, it probably did, but like it felt heavy, and the steering was so heavy.
Yeah, because because in the 964s, they started to do power steering, and it was like real like 90s level power steering. And I think with the RS, they dialed the power assist like way down to give you better feel, but it just makes the steering feel like oddly heavy.
Yes, that is accurate.
It's like it's a car that should have power steering but doesn't.
Yeah, it's like the power steering pump broke.
Yeah,
and you're trying to get through traffic, so it was oddly heavy. The car felt incredibly solid, but there was such a difference, in those eras. Like the 72s, a lot of sidewall. The suspension was still compliant.
Yeah.
Rode really nice and was still responsive. And then the 964 was like locked down, felt real stiff.
Yeah.
I mean, over some little bumps and things. There's not many bumps in Germany, but still, the little ones there were, it was like,
yeah.
But felt fast, felt very fast. And then they had a 996 GT3 RS that.
Rough, right?
Yeah, I mean, that one felt lighter than the 964, probably just because of the steering. The steering was back to being light.
Yeah.
But it was, again, very stiff.
Yeah.
You could. It was cool to see, like, the story and the arc of what they've done. Like, it was, cars in the 70s were light and balanced. That's just how they were. And then they kind of got more solid and stiffer, and this suspension got stiffer, and everything got wider, and like response goes up, and tires get more modern. And it was really cool to experience them back to back to back and see the difference. And then the 996 steering was like, then we had a 997 Sport Classic, and that steering was almost too light. So it's interesting because I feel like now, because they have such good adjustability with the electric systems, I really feel like the steering feel in terms of weight and to a degree feedback is like perfect.
Yeah,
and
they
now everything
figured it
else is
out
getting
now.
judged against that. Like, this is a little too, like, it's the Bernstein Bears. Like, this is too light.
Yeah.
This is too heavy. And heavy does not always mean feedback.
No. A lot of
Not at
times
all.
it means like worse.
Yeah.
Because you're just muscling it, and if you're worried about that, you're not actually feeling it. You're just trying to get it through the stupid corner.
Yeah, the 964 was like that, and then the 997 Sport Classic, which is a very cool car.
Were you
was
ever
just
like,
a little
is
too
this
light.
broken? Like, is this how this is actually supposed to be, or
I did not
did you
ask
just pull
that
this car out
question.
of a museum where it's been sitting for 25 years and
They said they ran through them, but the two different 72 cars had very different feeling clutches. It felt like the lightweight one was perfect, and the touring one was tired or something. I mean, the engines
might have
felt
been.
great, and the steering felt great on them, but there was just like...
It might have
And
been.
every other journalist was like, does this feel different than that one? Like, quite a bit different. We're like, yeah, why is the clutch heavier in this? Might have just been an age thing. Because their
Yeah.
warehouse, we got to see, has like 700 cars in it, everything. Like
Yeah.
919 Evo all the way down to a remake of the concept of the original Speedster,
Right.
which is super cool.
yeah.
So we drove all that stuff, and then they like, I was there because they're launching the Sport Classic, which is like,
Is that embargoed, or can we talk about that?
it is. The driving impressions are embargoed until June 19th, but that's why I was there. So we got to drive that against the 997 Sport Classic, which is not embargoed because it came out 15 years ago.
It's odd that they were like drive these RS cars as opposed to like drive these, I don't know, turbo cars or something.
I think, I don't know. Maybe it was just like, look, we have access to these. You guys are here for,
Yeah.
why only come here to drive one
This
flavor
one.
of car? So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. I'm sure everyone got more than one story out of it. I got 2 videos out of it.
What is your other video?
Well, I did a video on the 27 RS Touring,
Oh.
and then I did one on the new Sport Classic.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Hopefully people will like that.
Yeah.
Who else was on that trip?
Aaron Gold was the
Oh.
only other person I'd met, and then Dan Pund was
Oh,
on there.
Dan was there too? Oh, yeah,
and,
cool.
And Mike Duff.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
And then there were some people from like Germany that I'd never met before in England and stuff. But yeah, it was a cool, like, fun group, and the B roads around there are awesome and pretty.
Was it Stuttgart?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you have the roads outside of Stuttgart are pretty. Stuttgart itself is kind of meh.
Oh yeah, it's just a city, but like
Yeah.
but as soon as you get out in the B roads, like you get on the right one. It's
Yeah, no,
nice
I remember
twisting
it was.
forest stuff.
What did I do out there? Cayenne,
I think you
GT
did hybrid
Cayenne,
thing.
Turbo S hybrid.
Yeah.
Cayenne. Yeah, but that's not what I was there for. I was there for something else, and they were like, "Do you want to do this while you're here?"
I remember editing that video.
Maybe it was when I did the 992.
Maybe.
I think it was maybe when I
at the
went to
beginning
go
of the
do
trip.
992. They were like, "Hey, by the way, we've got this thing as well."
I think that's
Yeah,
true.
I think it was the same trip. Yeah. I'm on the cover of Avant's magazine this month. I don't know if anyone cares about print magazines anymore. You should, because I write for one called Road and Track, and I got 2 stories in the new issue. But they did they followed Zach and I around for a day, and they got some great photos. It's written by Ben Abrams. The photos are by Carl. What's Carl's last name? I'm blanking. I want to say it's Vogel, but that might be wrong. Noakes. Carl. I don't know who Carl Vogel is, but Carl Noakes. This title, by the way, is meant to imply things that I don't think people understand the implication of.
Correct.
I don't think they understand the expression of...
Say the title for the audio.
The title is Matt Farah has never worked a day in his life, which if you are someone who... the expression is if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I think like read, educated people understand that. And if you actually read the article, it's clear that I like my job and work pretty hard at it. But if you just read that title and you already don't think I have a real job, then boy, does that give you something to latch onto.
Yeah, it does.
It's not It's
like it's a great title, and then except it's like, oh, there are pitfalls to that.
There are, and I
Yeah.
discussed those pitfalls with Ben. I was like, oh, I don't know about this title. He's like, I love it, and I'm like, yeah, but like you need to understand how certain people
Right.
think about this job, especially if you have rich parents. And literally the first line, my very first quote in the entire article, is me saying I was born on third base. It's the very first thing I say. If you actually read the article, but people don't read.
Well,
they
yeah,
should.
I mean, because more people saw your Instagram post than bought the magazine.
Well, yeah, the digital version of the article was linked in the Instagram post, so you can actually go read it if you read things, which nobody does. Nobody reads anything.
A lot of people do, but plenty of people don't.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, reading list from this trip. Good options. I read 3 books this trip. One is called Everything Now, and it's a book about Los Angeles, and it's fucking great. It's by a guy named Rosecrans Baldwin, and this book is really great. It's about L.A. Yeah, that's it. It's about L.A. from like 30 different people's perspectives, but like put together into one story. Really, really interesting, especially if you live in the LA area. It's really a great, like, people talk about LA like it's a monolith, but it certainly is not.
Yeah.
And so I really like that. I also read a book called We Had a Little Bit of a Real Estate Problem, which is about the history of Native Americans in stand-up comedy. Really good, like super good. The joke is from that line is from a famous comedian named Charlie Hill. We had a little real estate problem. The unheralded story of Native Americans in comedy.
Whoa.
That joke is from Charlie Hill, who was a Native American comic who's like, my people are from Wisconsin. We used to be from New York, but we had a little real estate problem, which is funny
That
as
is
fuck.
very funny.
Not an
Yeah.
extra word in that joke.
That's very good.
And so it's about, not just comics that made it, but comics that really struggle, and like what it's like to be a Native American trying to do comedy, and how like the white folks stereotypes of either this like fucking super like meathead warrior or that sort of stoic sad Indian are like the only tropes that they give them, and not that they're actually like very funny people, which is great. I mean, it's not great, but it's like the book is great, and I really enjoyed it. And then I read one called 10 Years to Midnight, which is about the major crises that we are facing globally, not just in our country, and some possible solutions. And it's called 10 Years to Midnight because the author believes that these are the most urgent crises that need addressing, and we only really have 10 years to change them. So it's climate change, age disparity, income inequality, etc. And it offers both examinations of the problems and solutions from some experts. So reading list for this trip was pretty good.
That's cool.
Pretty good, yeah. What the fuck else did I want to talk about with cars? There was something. Oh, the RS3. So on the solo show, I talked about the Audi RS3. The drive impressions are now, the embargo's over. The video's up, put it up on Wednesday. You could see the disclaimer we had to put in the bottom of the video because Audi gave me wrong information. And then after I recorded the video, they got with Germany and got the right information. I was very upset that people whose whole job it is to give accurate information to journalists were giving bad information about something that's very important.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like the
What
it's
did
not like a
they
little
told
thing.
you at first?
What they told me on the ground was that this new rear differential could send 100% of the power to the rear wheels, and then could send 100% of that power to one side, up to. Okay, so that's what they told me. I put that on Instagram, and people were like, no, that's wrong. They can't do that. They're lying to you. And I was like, they're lying to me? That's crazy. So I asked, I'm not going to say their names, but I asked someone whose initial is MD, who you know. I asked another guy who's very high up in product planning, and I asked their head PR person together. And they all said, and I said, look, this person on Instagram said that what you're telling me is wrong. They're like, no, that person's wrong. What we're telling you is accurate. And I go, okay, but they said that European car magazines who tested this car earlier this year said that only 50% of the power could go to the rear wheels. And here's the article from Car Magazine out of England where it says that. And they went, no, Car Magazine is wrong. That's wrong. That was last year's car. That's wrong. And I went, are you sure? Yes. 100% of the power to the rear wheels. You're sure? Yes. Okay. Made the video. Said that. The next day, one of those people I talked to said, hey, an email just following up from Germany. Spoke with the engineers. It's 50% of the power to the rear wheels, and then 100% of that 50% to the one side.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Same as the Golf R.
Same as the Golf R. They say that I will say that the soft. Remember when you were trying to drift the Golf R, and it was actually kind of hard.
Yep. Yeah.
It's not hard in the Audi. There's a difference. It's not exactly the same. I think the hardware is the same. The software is different. Like, you can drift straight power oversteer. You can drift it. You can do a transition and go the other way. You can modulate. If you put it in that mode and you're modulating like you would a rear-wheel drive car, like in the Golf R, it'll like cancel the mode. You have to stay flat. Same as the Focus RS. With this, you can modulate a slide. You can left foot brake.
What?
To tuck. Yeah.
That's pretty rad.
That's why, like, they told me this shit after I drove it. And not only did I drive it on a drifty skid pad, I watched other people do it too. And it wasn't like a WRX rally car where you can see that you're in your donut. You know, all four wheels are spinning. It wasn't like that. The rears were spinning and the fronts were steering.
Wow.
So
it appeared and felt like 100. Yeah.
Like 100% was going to the back. So it did line up, but that's not what it was.
I wonder if the front axle is able to be cut off, so no power is going to the front, and so it's like, quote, all the power is going to the rear.
Yeah.
But of that power, it's only 50% of the power of the engine. I don't know.
Yeah. And then whatever it said in the press release, it was written in a deliberately confusing manner. Like, if your goal was to make sure the reader understood how this worked, you would not fucking write it like that. This is written so that people would misunderstand it and that Audi wouldn't have to correct them when they said the thing that made it look better. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, if you didn't make the kind of effort I made to get this right, you'd write the wrong thing, and Audi wouldn't correct you. They just let you think it. But this is like a Tesla move almost. I mean, it's really like, it's up there with in terms of like deliberately misstating how something works or finding the exact words to make it maximally misunderstandable.
It's pretty surprising.
Yeah. So, and Kamisa texted me and he was like, dude, get me on. Let's do a whole story about these people lying to me. And so.
All right, let's do that show.
And so, yeah, we should. So anyway, once they sent me this letter from Germany, I wrote back like, this is ridiculous. You guys are saying the wrong shit. Your press release is written to be maximally confused. The German guy wrote in one sentence very clearly how this works. 50% to the rear, 100% of that to one side. This is an English as a second language fucking guy who wrote it more clearly than you guys.
Well, he's very efficient.
He's very efficient with his words. Not one extra word in that sentence. Everything describes what's going on. And then the PS to that story is they then brought 3 RS3s to Malibu this past Sunday for Cars and Coffee. Fine. 2 people DM'd me and said that they asked about this rear diff and they told them the lie. Like, they're straight telling people the fucking lie. Even after I had this back and forth that supposedly cleared it up, they're just telling people the fucking lie.
Was it the same PR people at Malibu. Wow. That's weird. I don't know.
Like,
that's very strange.
Yeah. And it totally undermines the fact that that car rules.
Yeah, that's
like,
the problem.
Even with the, forget the lie, the car is amazing. It's stupidly fast. It's really comfortable. Great seats, great driving position. You know, for a small car, the driver's seat has tons of room. Like, you wouldn't have tons of room if you had 5 people in it because the driver might have to sit a little closer than they wanted. But if you're not really using the back seat, like, I would go cross country in that fucker tomorrow.
Well, like we figured out with the RS7 and the RS5,
yeah,
they actually have the same front passenger room.
Right.
For front compartment room.
Yeah. So the RS3 has like tons of room. Great tech, great stereo. The lights and shit are all cool. That 5-cylinder engine just rips.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
You know, the brakes are great. The steel brakes actually feel better on the street than the ceramics, but the ceramics hold more heat on the track. It's an optional Trofeo R tire, which is like crazy sticky. They had us doing the track first, and we were driving the Trofeo R, and I was like, bro, this car fucking boogies. This thing is real fast. And then I went to the street on the P0 tires, and I had no grip. And I was like, yo, this fucking car, I was like, I mean, it's a good thing they offer these other tires because these P0s, the car is so much more than those tires. It didn't work on the street with those tires. It was just too much car and I was just pushing, and I was like, this didn't happen with those other tires. And yeah, of course they're cheater fucking race tires, but still, you know, they're available from the factory for $450. $450 gets you Trofeo Rs.
Gets you 4 of them?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You have to get the dynamic pack. So dynamic pack gets you the all black wheels, the front ceramic brakes.
Does the thing have mag ride, adjustable dampers?
No, they got rid of the mag ride.
For all of them, for all
the RS3s, they have it's adjustable, but it's not mag ride anymore.
Oh, okay.
You know, I don't have my notes in front of me. It gets you some other stuff. It's like $5,000, and then you have the option to get the tires.
Okay.
Which you should get because for $450, that's stupid cheap for a set of those tires. And then once you kill them, you can replace them with Michelins, which would be better than the P0s.
Yeah.
I drove the RS3 on the road, on the same road I drove the 911 GTS on. And the RS3 was, and granted the GTS was a cab, but on the bumpy-ish desert roads at big speeds, like deep in the triple digits, the RS3 was more composed than the 911. It was just easier, you know, less effort on the wheel, less upset by imperfections in the road, less, you know, getting tossed around.
Did that GTS have PASM and all the things?
Had all the things.
Wow.
And I was driving in comfort. Don't get me wrong, the GTS is awesome, but if I actually wanted to go cross country at super high speeds, if I wanted to cross the desert as fast as possible, I'd rather have the RS3.
I mean, I would hope and expect that a sedan is sprung slightly softer than, you know, the sports car, and so that might have helped a little bit with it.
You get higher speed limiter with dynamic. The speed limiter without dynamic is 155, and it's 180 with dynamic.
Do you know what the wheelbase? I can look it up.
The wheelbase?
I was going to say if the wheelbase of the RS3 is much longer than the GTS, that's also why it may have been more compliant.
It's not much longer, maybe a little longer, but it's a fucking awesome car. I mean, I don't know where you're going to find more car than that for under $70,000. I just...
Dude, and I drove the one a few weeks ago. That was 2019. It's 3 years old, which, by the way, right now they're trying to sell those cars with 40,000 miles on them for like 65 over MSRP.
Yeah.
So get a new one. And I mean, other than the interior seeming a little old, like
have
that's a good point. Yeah, they're amazing. They're really, really amazing.
It's so fast.
So fast.
But and it took it. You know, he beat the shit out of it on the track all day too. You know, they're fine. But it's undermining when you've got these people just telling people the fucking wrong thing about it. Like, it's cool without that. Stop it.
Yeah, it doesn't need that extra thing of. It doesn't need that extra cool statement of, ooh, it sends 100% of the power.
I mean, it would be cool if it was true.
Right, but I'm saying like if the car is good and it drifts well, which is what you're saying, they don't need to add this lie that's trying to say, it's cooler than it really is. Like, no, you're fine.
The
On
fact
merit
that
alone,
you can do that you can drift it like a rear drive car, modulate, left foot brake, transition a slide, almost as if it was a rear wheel drive car. You don't need to tell me it is a rear wheel drive car. It's not helping. Just tell me it can do this cool thing. Show me it can do the cool thing, and I'll report that it can do the cool thing fucking honestly.
right?
It's very dumb. It was, and the fact that I went through that fucking round and round bullshit with them, only for them to bring the cars to Cars and Coffee and say that shit again to people, is crazy. So frustrating.
That's very weird.
Yeah, it's super dumb. I don't know. They shouldn't be doing that.
I want to hear this Jason Camisa show. Well, obviously he'll be there, but I'm curious to hear what his stories are.
Yeah, no, he said he's got countless examples of manufacturer people, from PR people to engineers, and flat out lying to him.
I mean, look, I had a funny one on the Porsche trip. The 72 RS was like the first, according to them, is the first car sold in Germany with a wing attached to the car. Like you could get the CSL before that, but it came in the trunk. Oh. And it was a big thing with TÜV and crash standards. Like, look, this has a wing. Our pedestrian's going to get hurt. Which what it was. It was really interesting, and we got to learn about how they tested the aero and how they built the thing and how it made the car much safer at speed. But they, at some point, they said this was the first car in the world that production car with a wing on it. And I asked one of the guys, I was like, what about 68 Camaros, various American cars? Like, there were wings all throughout the 60s.
What about the Superbird?
Superbird, yeah. The biggest wing in the world.
A biplane wing
right,
on it.
And you could buy it from the factory. And so I asked that, and they came back later in an email, and it was this kind of obscure language that just went, let's just keep talking about the RS, and they had gotten rid of the first car in the world with a wing.
We don't think about the American cars here.
I thought that might have been it. If they had, and
usually it's like they blame the Americans for not thinking about that. Usually it's like the Americans like in the 60s were like not paying attention with what anyone else was doing.
Yeah, which we are totally guilty of. This was the reverse. Yeah,
was the other way.
And I would have accepted that if they went, well, we actually meant the first wing in Germany. I'd be like, cool, but they said the first production car, and I was like, well,
yeah. Someone did not. Some fucking 22-year-old in Germany is not aware of what a Superbird is.
That is very possible.
Yeah.
What is a Camaro? 68? What was 68?
Yeah. It's, you don't have to be perfect, but like if that one is like, that's not as important. I mean, it's not correct. It's a great example of them telling you something that's not true, but it's not like they're saying the 911 Turbo S can send 100% of the power to the front wheels, and then doubling down on it when someone says
no. The Audi one is more egregious for sure.
Extremely egregious.
Yeah.
So that was a thing. Oh my God. I'm still kind of tired. It took me like 28 hours to get home from Uruguay.
The
one day,
okay.
Thursday was 22 hours. It was 4 a.m. Uruguay time, and Uruguay time is 1 past East Coast plus 1. 4 a.m. to 1 a.m. East Coast time. So it was 22 hours of fucking travel. Unreal. It's so far away.
I mean, it took me 24 hours to get back from Germany.
Oh, yeah. Why did that happen?
There were a lot of flight cancellations with Delta that week, like around the world. And then literally at like midnight the day before we fly out, the PR guy, Luke, sends a text, and he's like, there's a possible strike happening in Amsterdam where we're all flying through.
Oh,
and
boy.
this strike may be, and there were already reports of like huge delays in Amsterdam. Like the person that runs the airport got called into like Congress a few days later. They're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And so me and a bunch of other people said, all right, let's just change our flights. We'll go through Paris. So it added a leg.
Oh no, Charles de Gaulle.
It was fine.
Really?
But Charles de Gaulle,
Charles de Gaulle is probably the worst airport on Earth.
Dude, it's so funny when we were checking in, the woman at the counter in Germany, she was like, oh, you were flying through Amsterdam? We were like, yeah, we changed it. They're gonna have a strike. And she's like, oh yes, that would have been terrible. And she went, "Oh, you're going through Charles de Gaulle. That will also be terrible." I swear to God, she said that. Yeah, it was great. But that was fine. But apparently there were no problems in the transfer side of Amsterdam. So we wasted time. But I'd rather do that than run the risk.
Yeah, but Charles de Gaulle is the risk, especially if you're not going to Paris. If your layover is in Charles de Gaulle, oh my God, fucking God help you.
Yeah,
it's one of the most terrible places to have a layover in all of
on the way there, or on the way to Germany. I transferred through there, and I'm like, okay, I get off the plane. I have 45 minutes to get to a connection.
That's nothing in that airport.
Oh, it's terrible. I got auto change, but whatever. And I get to the passport thing, and there's just a huge mob of people.
Yeah,
and I hear someone go, "My flight's in 20 minutes," and someone else goes, "Me too," and everyone just went, "Oh, we're all."
Everyone
fucked.
here,
and everyone just went, "We're all just missing our flight."
Yeah,
yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
You missed the flight?
Yeah, missed that one. So they had to move it to a 2 and
Oh my
But
God.
the funniest, most French moment was I get up close to the line, the security gate, and I ask this woman who's wearing an orange Charles de Gaulle jacket thing, and I asked her a question, and she went, "Just ask my colleague on the other side of the gate. She would also be wearing a jacket just like this." And my thought was like, so you guys have the same position, same uniform. You just don't want to answer this question.
Talk to me. Yeah. That's
it's so
every
funny.
bit of my experience in that airport is not just how confusing the signage is and all that stuff, because it's a nightmare to get around, but also I will be here all day. Even if you miss your flight, I don't give a fuck.
So
I get
funny.
paid hourly. I'm going to have a cigarette and an espresso, and you can go fuck yourself if you miss your flight. It took us It took us over 2 hours to check the guns in Uruguay. I think
To fly out?
to fly back. If this was because of the thoroughness of the system, I would not be mad. You're talking about bringing guns across international borders.
Yeah.
I fucking get it. I get it. There should be a process and paperwork, but that's not why it took 2 hours. It took 2 hours because everyone involved in that process had never done it before. And there was like the levels of confusion of what to fucking do with these guns was like, we had to call the guy from the lodge who had dropped us off to come back and explain to the airport police what to do with the fucking guns. I mean, it was a disaster.
Yeah, I believe that.
Unbelievable. I'm not against. I don't think you should just be able to walk across borders with guns. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying these people had no idea how to do their jobs.
Well, I mean, dude, when I used to fly around with Tangent Vector and we do production stuff, there's these things called carnets, and basically it's a form that
it's a visa for equipment.
Yeah, it tells them that you're not smuggling it in, you're not going to sell it, and it works for cameras to cars. Like you need that thing, and some countries are very familiar with it, and we went other places where they went, "What's this?" And JF would literally go, "You stamp here," and then we stamp. And I watched him tear forms. He goes, "This is yours. You put it in a drawer, and we keep this when we come back." And they're like, "Okay."
That's literally what happened, except the guy was explaining that to a cop. Like, not like a gate agent.
No, we've explained this to customs agents that had weapons and stamps. Like, this is yours. You need this.
It's so crazy.
You're like, why? Yeah.
We got to the airport like 3 hours early and then almost missed our fucking flight because of this. It was like, you go here, and then you go here, and then you go here, and then you go back to here, and then you take this form back to here, and then you bring this here. Like, we had to go like 7 different places.
That's stressful.
So crazy. Next time, rent the gun. Don't bring the fucking gun.
Yeah.
Okay, lots of questions from the Patreon. Get down on it. Patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. You can ask your questions. You can get the show without ads. You can get it without waiting for Tuesday, Thursdays. All these things. Oh my God, that question is so
long.
many words. Oh my God. Okay. Long story short, Derek lives in the city.
Wants to get rid of his
wants a car
Crosstrek.
that's easy to park in the street and deal with urban all seasons. Going out to Jersey, I have a Crosstrek, and it's checked every box minus the drive quality. So you want something that's like a Crosstrek but drives better. Either a newish Mazda 3, a new Civic hatch, a used GTI, or just a new Crosstrek. None of those cars you're describing are going to be like magnificent to drive. I mean, the GTI is going to be the best of those.
Yep. You could get a Civic Si, which would be a little bit more fun than your Crosstrek.
Yeah, but it's a lot bigger. It's longer.
True.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be as good in the snow. The Crosstrek's all, the all-wheel drive is good in the snow.
I mean, all the other cars are front-wheel drive.
The thing about the Crosstrek is it's great in the city because of the ground clearance and stuff. You can really lean into that rally car kind of thing. And it's small. I mean, you might get a some guy, I don't remember his name, but he sent me, he wanted me to read an article that he had written and just critique it, which I still do sometimes. And he had a Ford EcoSport. You've seen the EcoSport? It's basically the Fiesta platform turned into a crossover. And he safari'd it. He put like big tires and a rack on it, and it looked like a Crosstrek, and it was actually pretty fucking cool. Can you like Google like EcoSport, I don't know, Safari or something like that, and see if a photo of it comes up? It's red. Yeah. Maybe just add modified or something like that. But the dude kind of safari'd his EcoSport, and it was kind of cool.
I mean, this one's kind of...
Yeah, it looked sort of like that. It was Crosstrekky. And so, I don't know, that might be an option that is not on your list. The Mazda 3 is a nice car. We've only ever driven the turbo one.
Yeah, the touring one.
The touring one, which did have all-wheel drive and was turbo, so that thing was pretty nice.
That was a nice car.
Had a nice interior.
And it's small. I mean, that would feel like a step up in terms of power performance and probably interior refinement compared to the Crosstrek.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do that.
Derek Barrero. That was Derek. Hamdan. My friend wants to do a manual swap to his Ferrari 599 and EAG. I remember you warning people to stay away. Can you remember? Okay, fine. I will say this. EAG, which is down in Texas, it's different from the EAG, the BMW place in Ohio. They're two different places. They're swapping Ferraris. They're making their own parts. They're not using original Ferrari parts, which, if that's okay with you, that's fine. My problem with them is that they have a history of stealing cars. They have a history of fraud. They have a history of criminal activity, and that's why you shouldn't give them money. I have the actual case numbers, like on my phone. So before they were doing these swaps, they were running this rental car business through Turo, but they convinced several different people that they owned the same cars, right? Like you could invest in this rental car business by giving a car, and they held the title and made excuses as to why they weren't delivering title to the quote owners, but they convinced several different people that they owned the same car. Meanwhile, none of them did. And those cases went to court, and they were, in some cases, settled. In some cases, they were convicted. But the bottom line is, these weren't the type of folks that I would send my very expensive car to and then send a bunch of money to. It's not because they can't convert a Ferrari from automatic to manual. Manual versions of the 430 exist, manual versions of the 360 exist, and a couple manual versions of the 599 exist. I've never seen them do a 599. I've also heard some horror stories about their work with the swaps, from customer relations to people being unsatisfied with the finished product. But the part that where I tell people not to send their cars down there is not because of the workmanship with the swaps. The only one I ever drove kind of worked. I was fucking shitty because I was used to promote that car, and the reason they had to sell that car was to pay off these people they defrauded. That was the circle. They were trying to not have these people they defrauded press charges and get them into more trouble, and they were going to get them their money back by selling this Scuderia at Barrett-Jackson, and they were going to hype that sale by having me, Freddie Hernandez, and other YouTubers drive this thing and promote it and write about it in Road and Track. So they used me for their scam, which is why I was personally insulted by it. But the bottom line is there are many fraud cases in Bexar County, Texas, that involve there's theft, there's insurance fraud, there's like title fraud. There's all these cases that were real. They were either decided on by a judge or settled. But those folks have a history of criminal activity, and so that's why I wouldn't send them my very expensive car. Tim Smith says, a few shows ago you referred to the Supra as a worse BMW 240. Could I get you to expand on that? Well, it's like a BMW 240 with less room. It's pretending to be a Toyota. I don't think it looks that good. I don't think it drives all that great. And it costs as much as a 240, basically. So that's why it's a worse 240.
Yeah, you're getting less car.
Yeah.
You know, the looks are subjective, but it's the same drivetrain and same underpinnings and everything else, really. And it's going to feel really similar. Like, they don't feel that, locked down, solid, agile. Like, I feel like they look like they'd be like, this is an aggressive sports car. It's like, yeah, it just feels like a sporty BMW.
Yeah. They don't drive nearly as aggressive as they look.
Mm-hmm. Which is same with the first gen, or the fourth gen. But, things didn't advance that much. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you want a car that feels like that and is honest about what it is, just buy a BMW 240, because that's what the Supra feels like. Mm-hmm. I don't like this question.
Okay.
Carter's planning on buying a 2011 Lexus ISF as my first sports car. Budget is $40,000. Anything else I should consider or test drive before pulling the trigger on it? I mean, 40 grand gets you a bunch of car. I mean, ISF is good because it's got 4 doors. It's reasonably reliable. Mm-hmm. It's an everyday kind of car. It's not like a specialized car. It's a sporty car, not a sports car. I mean, you should consider other sporty cars. I mean, 40 grand will get you like a car from like 2019 or like you can get a Genesis G70. Which is like a real nice car and it'll feel pretty new for probably under 40 grand.
Yeah, they handle well. The steering's pretty nice now.
A Kia Stinger GT, you can get for that kind of money. I mean, it'll get you a bunch of Mustang. It'll get you a bunch of Camaro if you want to drive stick.
There's a lot of questions. Someone followed up, and this is just a good advice for anybody, but like, do you need 4 doors? Do you need more seats?
Yeah.
Do you need 2 doors? Or do you need to live in the snow? Like, do you drive a manual? Like, there's a lot of follow-up questions we have to ask to know what you should get. I mean, as a first sports car, like, it's got a lot of power. I remember them being a little stiff and tail happy if you turn the traction off, so don't do that. But like, there's a lot of other stuff you could get for that money. Just depends on your criteria.
Yep. Brandon says, with the skyrocketing price of R34 GTRs, do you think the dream of a sub 80K normal R34 GTR in a few years is unrealistic? Looks like a decent one on normal color is above 110. I think that is unrealistic. R34s are the rarest. As the 32, 33, 34, as they worked their way through that series, they got lesser and lesser and rarer and rarer. The fact that the 25-year import rule means global marketplace, the fact that, so many people played Gran Turismo and now have money to spend on this car that was so good in the game that it was like unbeatable, and the fact that the reality of that car in many ways lives up to the video game legend. I mean, so many people would rather have a car like that than 110 grand would get you a Ferrari 348 or something that's probably not as nice to drive.
Yeah.
those cars are not going to get cheaper anytime soon. I mean, the people who were 16 or 15, in 2001, 2, anyone who was like 16 from 19 or a teenager or early 20s from the 90s to the mid 2000s, that's the car. It doesn't disappoint. It doesn't, they're not coming down.
Yeah.
So if you want a cheaper GTR, the 32s and 33s they made more of. They're not quite as desirable. They're mostly the same to drive, mostly. And when they're not the same, they can be modified to be almost exactly the same if that's what you want. But not a lot of 34s around. Not a lot of 34s with no stories. Not a lot of 34s that are in collectible condition. And they're not going to get cheaper. Historically, the cars have never gotten cheaper once they were legal to import. They've always gone up from there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they're really going to spike.
So math is against you on that one. Dante Casali, what do you think about Ford's announcement to reduce dealer inventory and require fixed pricing? I think people will order more varied colors versus dealers buying safe colors. I saw the headline, but I didn't read the article. I haven't gotten around to reading the article yet. I saw that Jim Farley announced that Ford was going to have fixed pricing with the EVs. They were not going to allow I think there's going to be the dealers are going to fucking freak out.
Probably, yeah.
I think the dealers might sue Ford. That I think that could happen. I mean, in general, I think it's good. I mean, one thing that I think Tesla has done well is make people think that fixed pricing is good. Doesn't mean they've been selling. Doesn't mean they don't change their prices all the time. They change their prices all the fucking time. But people still prefer that because they hate dealers so much. The idea of the dealer taking theirs off the top is like offensive to people. Even though historically for the last 20 years, we've been the ones beating the dealers up and not the other way around. They forget that. But they don't like the idea of a car dealer marking it up. And so if you've got a very hot car, but Ford or whatever corporate says you're only going to be able to buy this through an online reservation and they're not going to be able to mark it up, it's an interesting strategy. We may end up where Ferrari was in the 2000s or where Rolex is right now, where the dealer goes, oh, you want an allocation, you have to buy this other thing first, and then we'll buy it back when it comes in.
Buy this busted Escape.
Yeah, that could happen, where it's because it doesn't. I didn't read the article. I'm going to read the article today. I've been a little busy since I got home, digging myself out from under this pile of stuff. But if Ford is saying that it's a direct consumer model where you go around the dealer. You just go to the website and order the car and pay, and that's it. That would be amazing, but I think the dealers would sue Ford.
Yeah, probably.
If the dealer is still somehow in charge of allocations, that's different. So here's the article, and I'm going to read it in real time. Let's go down. Ford will transition to 100% online fixed price delivered to your home sales for their electric vehicles, according to CEO Jim Farley. Direct delivery and zero negotiation are necessary for the brand's EV business. Transactions will be online, leaving out car dealers. Ford is looking to replace part of the dreadful dealership experience with online purchasing. Where does it? Okay, keep going down. They use here. Is this the quote? I'll read the quote from Jim Farley. I believe can you zoom in, Zach? Can you Command plus? I believe for retail, we have to, it's kind of like what happened between Amazon and Target. Target could have gone away, but they didn't. They bolted on an e-commerce platform, and then they use their physical store to add groceries and make returns easier than Amazon. They use their expertise as a physical retailer to their advantage, but they modernize the e-commerce piece, so it'd be really easy to do business with them. It's exactly what we do on the retail side. We've got to go to non-negotiated price, got to go to 100% online. The vehicle, there's no inventory, goes directly to the customer, 100% remote pickup and delivery, but then we have the opportunity to use our physical presence to outperform them. I think in theory, that makes a lot of sense, but I don't know what a dealer franchise agreement looks like.
Right.
That might allow the manufacturer to go around the dealer for the
and different
sales.
state laws regarding different dealership things.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like at a glance, I could see it benefiting Ford because they could fix the price a little higher than what the cost is that they sell them to dealerships.
Mm-hmm.
So they might make a little bit more money because they don't have to worry about the dealership taking their cut and selling it to them for whatever cost is. So for them, it might be beneficial. But yeah, there's going to be turmoil. I mean, the dealership will be pissed.
And in theory, an EV should have less service costs than a gas car too. So you're not going to let them make money on the sale. They're going to have to deal with warranty claims, but they're not going to be making much money on the service side. That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess that if they do it, the dealers sue Ford.
Yeah, like in every state, probably.
Yeah. I mean, but look, if I had a chance to buy a car, I've been buying cars personally at a flat price for years. All right, and maybe that means I'm some kind of a sucker, but when I go to Bo Bachman at Galpin, and granted, in the car world, maybe I'm a little bit of a somebody. I've had a deal with him, which is he gets me the exact car I want. It's usually pretty early in the production cycle. You know, the Raptor, the Fiesta, the Mach-E were pretty early in the production cycle. Gets me the car I want in the color I want, and I pay full price, and I don't fucking argue. And maybe I'm used to paying the MSRP for cars. So yes, it's annoying that there's ADM, and in a lot of cars I wouldn't pay ADM, but like I'm used to paying a fixed price, and it doesn't bother me. Just me personally, I have money, so maybe that's why, but I think it's more. It's not so much the having money. It's like people want to feel like they beat the system.
Yeah, because I think for a long time, people have been taught or told that they get fucked by the system with dealerships, and like it's almost like even if we found out with clear evidence that dealerships were making no money on sales for 10 years, right? People still have this thought because their parents taught them, like, I got fucked at the dealer makes all this money, It's just something in us.
Oh.
So it's always seen. And it's like a 3-hour situation when you want to go buy the car. Like, it's never that simple. There's a lot of paperwork. And we know that dealerships have, at points in the past, changed financing, so you're paying more for the car than you thought. And if you don't read the fine print, even if you agreed to terms, like you say, yes, I'll give you 4%, I say, great. And then I sign the thing. If I don't look at page 17, you actually changed it to 5.3. Like, they've done that. Yeah. So it's understandable why everyone has a bad taste in their mouth.
Yeah. But I think if this, I mean, look, this is, I don't want to treat this the same way when I like to wait for actions rather than what someone says, whether it's, typically this applies to Elon Musk where the actions very rarely match up with what he says. But in the case of Jim Farley and Ford, I would expect this goes to a lawsuit before anything actually changes. It's a lofty goal, which I respect. What's up next on the deal? Okay.
You keep popping
tires. I don't have an answer for Dakota's question about tires, and the question is, which would be more durable in bad roads? I don't know.
More sidewall will be more durable. That's probably the answer to your question. So you say you have 20s.
Yeah,
if you can get 19s on it and add more sidewall, that will handle potholes much
Dakota
better.
wants to know if Pirelli Scorpion Zero all seasons or Michelin Pilot Sport all seasons are more durable on bad roads. I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. The answer is, can you fit a smaller wheel on your car? And if you can, you should do that. Yeah. That's what downsizing your wheel.
Oh, that's the response to that.
Okay. Let's see. DWBF11. A friend's allocation on a new 911S has come up. Any must-have options that you would suggest? Already getting sport chrono manual transmission. I mean, yeah, rear steer. Rear steer is the jam.
It's really helpful.
Makes a huge difference. Yeah. If you can get, if you can get PASM and rear steer, sport exhaust is definitely worth it on a Carrera S. Changes the sound tremendously. But that's really it. If you, I would, rear steer is really worth it.
Yes.
Nose lift might really help you depending on where you live. It's expensive, but when I get the 911 press cars, I use nose lift all the time.
In this city, you need it.
Yeah.
Some cities you might not.
Yeah.
But here you definitely do.
Yeah.
But I think rear steer makes every part of your life easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sport exhaust is good too. So I would get that if you can. Jordan Hodes. Zach made some comments about the new M2 ad on the gram recently, and it got me thinking, what makes a good marketing campaign for an aspirational product like a luxury or sports car? Oof.
I mean, advertising is, like, so much of advertising is, look at these people having fun. Don't you want to have fun too?
Yeah.
And they do it for beer and they do it for Mercedes. It's just like, it's aspirational. Don't you want to live the life that this person's living? And that's kind of what, I don't know if you saw the ad, but they used stock footage of a Tesla.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
It's really, really funny.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what the response is back from them if they ever give one. I mean, I don't know. Like the ads we like, okay, the current darling of the ad world is the Supra, the Toyota stuff, because they broke the fourth wall. And it's like that pitch meeting. Have you seen these ads?
No.
Dude, they're awesome. It's like...
For the current Supra?
Yeah, it was like a Supra. It was a Toyota wide ad that they made a year ago, and they've made two of them. One's called The Pitch, and the other one's called something else. And it's basically like the creatives for GR are pitching to Toyota executives, and the Toyota executives have the dumb notes that you'd expect OEMs to have. So you have like a car drifting, and then they're like, ooh, that seems kind of dangerous. Can we have it just driving through the parking lot? And then jump cuts to like slowly driving, but they still have the racing helmet on. They're really, really funny.
That's funny. That is funny.
So like, I mean, for me, an ad that's funny
self-awareness is
really
a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, but for luxury stuff, it's always like, look at this fancy shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think demonstrating what a car can do, if it's a car, with the ads that come to my mind that are successful, like the watch ads, where it's like you don't buy a Patek Philippe, you take care of it for the next generation, and it's always like, super rich, fashionable people wearing the watch with their young kid, and it's kind of like implying that it's the kind of thing you leave to your kids, which I think is a good bit. But self-awareness for sure.
Whether
works.
it's for you, your child, or your second wife,
right?
Rolex.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't really know the. So many tire questions. I just don't. Yeah, iPhone. Will modifying the 992 GT3 to have softer suspension solve its city drivability problems? I mean, yeah, but imagine spending the extra money on a GT3 only to do that. Just get a GTS.
Yeah.
I mean, the answer to that is GTS. It's if you really want a 911 to drive in an urban environment, the GT3 is just not the best at that.
If you really want a GT3 because you either want it to collect it and hope it appreciates,
then you don't want to modify it.
Then you don't modify it. I mean, you could buy it instead of whatever KWs. Have Joey set it up and keep the stock ones on the shelf so you never get rid of them. Like, that's fine. You could put them back on and sell it. You could do that. It's just a lot of work and cost. So then you're just buying the engine, but having the suspension that is not meant for that car, which is weird. It totally changes the character.
But you could also buy last year's GT3 that is better in the city and has the same engine.
Right.
It's the same.
It's funny. Someone would go, but then you don't get the double wishbones. Be like, you don't give a fuck about them anyway.
You don't
you're
care.
In the city.
It doesn't matter. The double wishbone, doesn't help it drive better in the city. It helps it go faster on the Nürburgring. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you soften it in the front, or if you soften it in general for the city, it will then be less responsive. When I picked my car up from Carbon, it was really stiff. They clicked it all the way stiff. But holy shit, was it responsive and agile?
Yeah.
But you're going to lose that if you soften the front up.
The answer is if you want a 911 to drive around every day, don't get a GT3. That's the wrong car for that. Get a GTS, and it will be. I have a review of the GTS coming out in what, I don't know, next week, Zach? 2 weeks?
Something like that.
Something like that. The GTS is fucking awesome. And if you want to drive in an urban environment, just get that because it'll ride better and not be darty. Chappie, thoughts on AMG Project One gets smoked by a Bugatti and 765 sticks with it deep into acceleration numbers. Seems a bust. Is that true?
Yeah, no, it's true.
Who did the race?
It's based on the official numbers from Mercedes, but when the car was first announced, years ago, they said it's going to run 0 to 60 in X, and it was going to be a lot quicker. And basically, the car has gained, I think, like 1,000 pounds or something like that since that. Andrew Frankel wrote a really good article about it on the intercooler, basically saying it seems like they found out that putting an F1 engine in a road car adds a lot. You're going to add a lot of weight to make it work, to make it be happy. So that's why
that
it's not as
seems
fast.
that's a you absolutely should have known that beforehand thing.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not as fast as they thought it would be. It's cool and it's got a lot of technology, but if you buy it for outright speed, you're going to lose that race to a lot of other cars that don't cost as much money.
Yeah, I mean, you might end up in an XJ220 situation where the production car doesn't live up to the what was promised beforehand. But let's just remember that what we're talking about is far beyond the capability of the average driver. It's not why 80% of the people who are buying this car.
Right.
You know what I mean? Unless you happen to be racing a Bugatti, nobody fucking cares. Like, nobody cares.
The car sold out, and I don't think anyone who ordered it is going to be returning it because of these numbers.
Yeah. I mean, if it has an F1 powertrain in it, as promised. And the people who have these cars, it's not either or. Nobody is going, should I buy a Bugatti or this? Or should I buy a 765 or this? They're hoovering this shit up like it's a fucking T-shirt. It doesn't mean anything to these people.
They're going to park this next to their McLaren F1 and everything else, and they're just going, The people who buy this shit have fucking 60 cars. They don't give a fuck. It's just another one. They're deep into addiction with this kind of stuff, and they don't pay fucking taxes. They have way too much money, and it's never either or. It's and. Yeah.
And so, anonymity, what's your Are You Garbage Car Edition story? I've owned a Corvette. So Are You Garbage is one of my favorite new podcasts that basically they ask questions of their guests and from the audience and evaluate whether or not you're like a very trashy person. At what point was my Mustang in high school, I took apart my interior and the door plastic pieces where the window switches were, the bezel around the gauges and the bezel around the center stack. I painted them red, but I didn't use correct automotive paint. I just used I don't know what it was, fucking paint. And the car itself was done really nicely, but this was an extremely trash element of the car. It was very very trashy. So in that sense, I left it on too long, so it was getting chipped with stuff. Like I had this bracelet when I was then, and I'd hit on the door and it would just chip the paint right off.
Oh man,
it was super super trashy.
Yeah,
I also had street glow on my first car. Now it was 2 years before Fast and the Furious came out, so it wasn't. No, but it wasn't like I saw the movie and went, that's what I want on my car. I had that shit first, and I'd seen it at car shows and stuff, and I thought it was cool. And then I had a new car by the time the movie came out, and I was like, oof, this has jumped the shark. I'm glad I don't have that anymore. But yeah, that's my trashy car mod story. is the painting of the bezels.
My trashiest car mod story was when I was trying to sell my 97 Jetta GLX, and the side molding had fallen, this big rubber strip had fallen off the door. So I ordered a new piece, but it didn't come with a bracket that kept it like a certain distance from the door. So I just used cardboard, which I glued together, and then stuck it underneath that rubber stripping and stuck it to it. And then I sold the car. And the first time it rained, that person's trim probably fell off. And that's pretty garbage.
I mean, I bought a Ferrari that had door panels duct taped on.
That's true. That
Straight
person's
up.
garbage.
I just had to pay for those door panels to get fixed, and that duct tape cost me $3,800. But the door panels look fucking amazing.
I'd hope
Donnie's
so.
sending me pictures. It looks awesome. Brandon Martinelli, best sub 80,000 sedan driver's car, M3 RS3 Quadrifoglio. I'd say Lexus IS 500 goes in there too.
I would say the CT4V, not the CT5, but the CT4V.
Yeah.
I think I haven't driven the RS3, but the quad, their reliability, I just couldn't recommend that car.
Yeah. CT4 Blackwing is extremely fire, especially with a stick. If you needed the all-wheel drive, the RS3 is a ripper. It's definitely...
Is it more fun? The M3 Comp was great, but the regular M3 M4 we drove was like, it was fine. It was a little soft, but like it's a fine sports car. But is the RS3 more focused?
I mean, it's so ugly. I hate it. I don't care how it drives. Like, it's literally, I don't give a shit how it drives at all because it is so heinous looking. Don't care.
I'm with you.
Just beyond.
I'm with you.
I think the RS3 and the Blackwing are the two best cars at that price point. But I feel like I haven't driven an automatic Blackwing. I feel like it might suck some of the fun out of it.
Oh, absolutely. But the fact you can get it with a manual is great.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the RS3 has a very good dual clutch. So.
RS3 dual clutch is excellent. Man, that would be a tough one. That's a tough one. The tech stuff is better in the RS3. But the dynamics, I think, are a little more hot in the Blackwing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can imagine that.
Yeah. And you don't have to get like with the RS3, you got to get the dynamic pack and all this other stuff. I think if I didn't need to drive in the snow ever, I'd rather have the Blackwing. But the RS3, by the way, has a reverse stagger. The fronts are 265s and the rears are 245s.
They did that on the last gen too.
Yeah, which is weird.
Well, that's how they make it a little fun.
Yeah. No, I get why they do it, but like that's kind of funky and strange.
It is very weird. Clever, easy ways to fix understeer.
Yeah, for sure.
Last one.
Martin Bueno. Did you see the E46 wagon BMW made and never sold? Would you have wanted one in period? I want one now.
Yeah.
I mean, it was too late to buy Mark's E46 wagon. There's been a couple people that have built custom ones using basically factory parts. An E46 wagon would be amazing.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
I saw that one in person.
There's literally no downside. I mean, it looks cool as fuck. Good it's an M3. It's just a fucking wagon. Rules. Yeah. They have M5 wagons in Europe too. They look great.
Yeah, they had M5 diesel wagons or what were they
550D MD or whatever.
Yeah,
medical doctor. So yeah, that's what's going on. I'm out of things. Monday morning, Raf Orlov of Road and Track is coming in. Did you know he's at Road and Track now? He is.
Yep.
He's coming in Monday, 8 a.m. Pacific time. It's going to be an early show. Then we have. Then I'm going up to the Hypercar Invitational, which is up in Monterey. I got a CT5 Blackwing to give rich guys hot laps in. A lot of these people have very expensive cars and have literally never been on track before, so I have to teach some of them how to drive around racetracks. But it's also Randy Popes is going to be there. Ben Collins is going to be there. Justin Bell is going to be there. So I'm doing a podcast with the three of them, which should be very interesting up there. And then next week, Alex Roy is going to be in studio talking about Argo and the truths and falsities of autonomy.
Awesome.
Which will be great. And then I think we have another. Mike Guy from Road and Track was going to come in, but he got the vid. He got the plague. The plague is real.
Yeah,
It's fucking
it's going around.
Oh, speaking of which, you know, my dad retested positive. So, like, we both tested positive, 3-4 weeks ago on the same day. He's in New York. I'm here. Both got Paxlovid, took it, and then yesterday he tested positive again.
And is it confirmed? Like he take two tests?
He took 2 tests.
Ooh.
Yeah, so like we don't know if it's just like you know, he talked to his doctor extensively about it, and they think like people who take Paxlovid, like 1 to 2%, it doesn't kill like all the virus, and you can test positive again a couple weeks later. And it's not like, bless you, it's not like the same, like you're not really contagious or whatever, but like you can develop symptoms or test positive again like later.
Dude, that's, wow.
It's fucking scary.
Well, because I had to take a test to fly back, you know, like
Yeah.
a live thing. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah,
All right.
it's fucked
Interesting.
up. Yeah.
You can also just catch it again, which is not great.
Yeah, that you like. Apparently, the immunity is like fucking not anything anymore now. It's like worthless.
Well, it mutated, so it's just...
No,
yeah.
I know, but like people who got Omicron are now getting like Omicron 2.0.
Right.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Our world sucks. So anyway, check out the books on my reading list. Pick up this Avance magazine wherever you get magazines, or you can read the article online. It's a very nice piece despite the title. And we'll see you on Monday. Bye.